Hi, everyone. This is Center of Life with another wellness workshop. I have here today with us Kiyomi Knox, of course, and as well as Robin Sheffey with Still Smiling, who will be speaking on our topic of changing the narrative and delving into some information for our communities that look like us, people of color, our Black community. And I'll let her finish introducing herself.
Oh, actually, I'm going to pause 1 second. Someone did actually just join the waiting room.
Hello, and welcome to Still Smiling's presentation on changing the narrative around domestic violence. I know this is February, which is Black History Month. I have a new coin for us. It's called Black Future Month. We can think in terms of the future, how we can do things better in terms of a people, a race, a community. And how do we link arms to ensure that we are all leaning into each other as we experiencing these disruptive, dysregulation, isolation, frustration together, being observant on the fact that we are still in an active pandemic. And we continue to show up. We show up for ourselves. But in showing up for ourselves, we want to be able to offer some supportive services, some opportunities to talk about these things and put them out here so they don't weigh us down. So this is a heavy topic. If it gets to be triggering, let me know. If we're going in too far, let me know. And I will attend to it. So I'd say let's get started. Let's dive into this. What is this? What is this domestic violence, domestic abuse thing? What is this? I don't know. Am I doing the slides? Okay, you're doing them. I apologize. I say the layers of domestic violence within the Black community because they are so layered. And I know I probably didn't do a very good job of introducing myself, but that's okay. That's okay. I am a certified clinical trauma professional. I also hold a master's in professional counseling. And I am the program manager for Still Smiling. That's the housekeeping. The passion is to ensure that every Black individual has a positive mental health experience by the year 2030. That's what we're standing on, like that whatever interactions you have around mental health, that they are positive and not negative. And if we can help and support that, this is our mission. Let's at least talk about what is domestic violence. We have next slide, please. And domestic violence, we got things in the way a little bit because I can't see. Like our faces are blocking. Okay, I'm moving it over. I apologize for that. Domestic violence. It's a pattern of abusive behavior in which a person uses coercion, deception, harassment, humiliation, manipulation, and or force to establish or maintain power and control over his or her intimate partner. It's economic, it's emotional, it's psychological, it's physical, it's sexual, and verbal tactics are used by perpetrators to control and obtain power over their partners. Next slide, please. Domestic violence abuse in the Black community. Use some statistics here. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, more than 40% of Black women have experienced intimate partner physical violence, intimate partner sexual violence, and or intimate partner stalking in their lifetime. And more than half of Black adult female homicides are related to intimate partner violence. We just recently saw that this a couple days ago when it was a domestic violence where the gentleman burned his house, female in it, and burned her house. And during the pandemic, it's not getting easier. This isolation, this frustration is compounding the impact of people that are of color and other people as well. I'm talking specifically about Black community, how it's increasing domestic violence situations and abuse. Next slide, please. Some of the leading causes: lack of opportunities along with financial barriers lead to domestic violence. There's a power establishment for the perpetrator, and there's a disempowering sense of self from the victim. This is how another response is, our trauma response is, this is how I learned how to take care of myself. Perpetrators learn to be perpetrators, or they've been victimized. So this is how I learned how to take care of myself. Well, how do you do it? You saw in The Color Purple. What do? Harpo, beat her right. She don't know what to do. Beat her right. There's also unaddressed mental health that contributes to the perpetrator. And there's also, people don't consider this much, intellectual disabilities. There's a lot of people who are really lacking in the ability to articulate their needs. And so their physical needs become real important. So they're violent, they're aggressive, contributing factors that cause individuals to be victimized by domestic violence. Next slide, please. If somebody has a question, they can do that, but let me get through this one. When we talk about some of the factors that impact individuals in domestic violence, we talk about, look at the history, 400 years gap and 400 years of being left at the starting line, while other groups have moved forward with ease. That holds us back. So I want us to look at this video. It's called an unequal opportunity race. It moves fast, but look at this, and when you look at this, look at it through the lens of possibly battering is never okay, but look through it through the lens of this is sort of contributing factors as to why individuals feel the need to use violence as a means to articulate. Please show the video. So I wanted to give like a backstory on when you're trying to understand domestic violence and then even in the Black community, it's real important to widen the lens so we can see the historically where it has come from, where it's rooted. I believe in the root. What's the root? Not just, oh, it's happening. Where did it root from? And in that rooting, how has it become commonplace? And why does it seem to be, and it's in all communities, but when you are disenfranchised, when you have lack of access, when you're dealing with health disparities, it shows up a certain way for us. If you can hit the next slide, please. So the impact on health outcomes. By intentionally denying Black people access to economic opportunities, the ability to build intergenerational wealth, healthcare, education, and a sense of safety from governmental systems, racist policies increase the prevalence of risk factors for domestic violence. The ownership goes where? We all have to do our own ownership in this, but the other part of it is, wow, access impacts a person's ability of how they show up in their families, how they feel as if they're the man of the family, how a female feels as if she's the mother of the family, how these dynamics interact with each other and kind of like impacts how we love each other. Next slide, please. Some of the root causes is it's a combination of things that are not given. We're not given opportunities in education that generally will be made available to other populations, specifically white populations. It's social economical. Typically, the higher you are in that social economic strata, the greater access you have to education and resources where you can get some of this information, where you can receive services. So if you have access to resources, you can kind of like climb out of things. But if you are limited in resources, it kind of like boxes you in. Next slide, please. Some of the cultural factors that we have to consider. It's easy to understand the physical parts of domestic violence. People do not consider the financial and the emotional sides can be harder to identify if that's what you're used to. We're not talking about it in a safe environment. Like, we're not talking about it. We're talking about it now and it's a safe environment. But ideally, we don't talk about it. It is, shh. We know you're being physically hurt and see it, but and nobody wants to get involved. And the other part is that it's difficult at times for family members to show up for the individual being abused because they return to the abuser. So you kind of like, I'm not gonna get involved in this anymore because they don't listen. They keep going back, but it's difficult to get out of a pattern of abuse. You get used to it, you do. So some of the awareness and education gets to be, let's continue talking about it and having a safe place for people to say, I'm not feeling safe to talk about it, and not pressuring, them to leave. Would you want to pressure them to be safe? Can you be safe in this? Is there a way to be safe in this? And that's some of the dialogue we need to have, as well as Black women also don't necessarily want to turn an abusive partner into law enforcement. A lot of reasons around that. They don't want them to be a part of a statistic. Next slide. We know that we in terms of our hue, our shade, fear very negatively in the hands of police. So there's a genuine, legitimate fear that if you call the police, their partner could be killed. And nobody wants that. They want the violence to stop. They don't necessarily want them dead. But there's sometimes they want them dead too, because they want it to stop. They want them gone. I don't care. I'm plotting and scheming on poisoning them. I'm plotting and scheming on finding ways to hurt them instead of leaving, because they don't feel empowered to leave, but internally, I'm gonna get them. I'm going to get them. instead of fact, because they feel like they have no resources. They don't know what to do with it. They just want the pain to stop. Next slide, please. How does religion impact our domestic violence or domestic abuse? We take things to God. And sometimes in the Black culture, it's looked down upon for us to ask for help. Like, we're going to build that house by ourselves. We have to lean on support systems. And we don't let others know what's going on inside our home. Like what goes on here stays here. Our church family may clearly tell us, take it to God. You can take it to God, but you need an action plan in that godliness. So faith is huge, but we have to be realistic about what's real, because you can't pray it away. Can't pray it away. When someone is violently taking advantage of you, you can use your pastor as a resource and your religion and your faith. But the most important thing is to be mindful and use your church as your support, but not the only thing. It's not your only resource. And historically, there have been churches where you pray in it at and don't talk about it. Shh. Pastor said, shh. That keeps an individual stuck in that pattern of abuse, where they don't see themselves out. They see no resources. So I'm just going to bury myself in it and just keep living by it. I'm just going to live by it. I'm going to walk around with twitches because I'm waiting for the next time I'm going to be hit. Next slide, please. We talked about religion, but how does it impact your brain? Domestic violence and abuse impacts the brain and behavior. It causes trauma for the victim. And they may experience symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, which could be hyperarousal, being overly aroused, re-experiencing being in the moment, always like, they can still smell the level. When violence is in a household, there is sweat hormones that are released and you can feel it. You can walk into a room and tell something violent has happened. So they may be re-experiencing that. There's avoidance, the numbness. They can go to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain away, which keep them re-victimizing and staying in it. They go into their trauma response, which is to fight, flight, or freeze. And most of them freeze. They don't know what to do. I love him, but he's hurting me. Or I love them, but they're hurting me. Next slide, please. So domestic violence or traumatic brain injury, domestic survivors with TBI may not be able to make safe choices to hold a job. I can't hold a job. I can't pay attention. I'm anxious, I'm depressed. I can't relate to my kids. So I'm gonna say, think about this. An individual that's going through domestic violence during this pandemic, they have nowhere to go. The kids are seeing this, they can't even focus on school. So they're in this isolated space where they have no resources, which could lead them to suicide or to homicide, or to say, you know what? I don't need to do this no more. I'm taking me and my children out of here and kill them. Next slide, please. So we're now saying, can we talk about this? Can we have a serious conversation about what it looks like for us? Some of the conversation that people have in regards to when they say, I'm going through domestic violence. They say, you should be grateful to have a Black man, especially if he's educated and has a job. So it's okay as long as you have money to beat on me. Okay. Staying no matter what, they say it plays into the strong woman. You know, you can take it. He can beat you upside your head a couple times. You're strong. You got a strong backbone. Okay. We could be bleeding from the mouth, one arm off, and we're still going to put that dinner on the table. We're pressing through it. We're pressing through it. We know pain. We know hurt because of our 400 years of attachment to it. We know that. We welcome that. And there's nothing wrong with being a strong woman, but not at the point of wreaking havoc on mental health and physical health. So I don't use strong woman. I use resiliency because I bend, I hurt. I'm going to roll into it. I'm not strong. No, I'm not. I'm not going to accept it. Because if I'm strong, you'll think I don't hurt. And I hurt. And I feel. We act as if Black women can handle pain. Sure, Black women can handle what's thrown at them, but they should not have to. And all the time we do not have to hold up the world for the world. You don't have to. We choose to. We don't know any other way. Because if we always have to show up for ourselves, if we drop the ball, everything stops. So we carry it, but it's heavy on us and it hurts us. But unless we have a safe space to talk about it and say, I'm tired of holding this like this. I'm tired. We won't move toward change. So the mere fact that Center of Life says, hey, listen, talk about it. Put it out here on the table. Bring some light to it. This is what we're doing right now. So, and hopefully we'll continue the conversation, but I want us to know about the fact that how important it is as women, period, of not trying to hold all these mantles and being able to say that we hurt and be able to speak with having a conversation around, no, you can't beat on me. No, it's a work in progress. It is. Next slide, please. I said a lot, huh? Where do we go from here? I said a lot. I know. I'm a talker. How do we continue the dialogue, provide support to show the worth of everyone in our communities? We can continue our outreach efforts. And I want to highlight to the fact that in the Black and African American community and in the LGBT community, in the intersections between the two, is the awareness that Black trans women experience violence at a rate higher than any group. We have to highlight, talk about it so that we become resources to each other. Economics is often a factor in domestic violence. So how do we help Black women rise to the ranks where they can have equitable life and feel that they can take care of their family, as well as our mates. If you're only making $7 something an hour, how am I going to feed you? How does that empower me? So there's a lot of other conversations we have to have and talk about. But some of the main ones is us being able to hold each other up. Next one, please. Next. And I think that's our reference page, but I wanted the people who are on here to please, in honor of domestic violence in Black community, download the app, Are You Safe app by the Women's Center and Shelter. So if you know of someone and they can't talk about it, girl, get this app. Dude, get this app. so we continue to bring awareness and people have a safe place to talk about what's going on with them.